What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Q&A with Ari Blue here on a Tuesday night at a little bit after 6 p.m. Thank you for joining us here on Facebook. And again, we want to hear from you, the viewer, the fan of SFBN. Please submit your questions. I am live right here on Facebook. Also, I'm on Twitter at @the_SFBN and also at Ari Blue DU. I'm at all three places. So make sure you check in and submit your questions. And in fact, we got a lot of great questions during the day from a lot of our fans, a lot of our viewers on Twitter and Facebook. So I want to thank everyone for submitting some questions. We're going to jump right into them in just a moment. But again, a reminder that you can submit questions live right here on Facebook Live. Whatever you want to submit, whether it's a question for me about high school hoops, whether it's a question about other high school sports, or whether it's something that you want to see on Varsity Voice, our TV show on the Comcast Network, which airs at 6 p.m., by the way, on Thursday night. So thank you very much again for tuning in right here on Facebook Live. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with a question that we received on Facebook, and this was from Ray. And he asks, in tonight's District 1 6A action, which favorite or higher seeded team has the best chance of being upset tonight? What a great question. Thank you so much, Ray, for submitting that. If you take a look at all the matchups tonight and which one's going to be upset, and I'm going to pull them up right now just so I don't miss anything. I think you got to look at the 8-9 game, Cheltenham-Springford. We're actually going to be covering that on our website, thesfbn.com. We're going to have a reporter and a photographer there tonight. It's a monster game between two very good teams. You have Springford and then Cheltenham. They're from Suburban 1. I think Springford certainly has a chance to win that game. Not much of an upset, though, with the 9 winning over the 8. If you're looking for somewhat of a bigger upset, I would look at Hatboro-Horsham North Penn. Hatboro-Horsham is the number 21 seed. They beat the number 12 seed CB West in the first round, so they've already pulled off an upset. And they're playing a North Penn team who's a good team, don't get me wrong, but Hatboro-Horsham has Clifton Moore, and he's going to Indiana. So you look at that, and I think Hatboro-Horsham probably has the best player on the court in Clifton Moore. So Hatboro-Horsham, I think, could pull off the upset here as the 21 seed over potentially the number 5 seed. And then another game I'd look at, which, again, it's not much of an upset, and maybe two of them, too. The number 10 seed Lower Merion over the number 7 seed Conestoga. I actually made that selection in my brackets. You can make sure to check out my brackets. And also my co-host, Mike Samsel, you can check out our brackets on thesfbn.com. So I made the pick that Lower Merion would beat Conestoga. That's another game we're covering on SFBN. And then the number 11 seed Penwood playing number 6 Pennsbury. I think that also has a definite shot at being an upset. I think Abington, Plymouth White Marsh, Coatesville, and Perkiomen Valley, the top 4 seeds, I think that they should all win. But all the other higher seeds, I think they're certainly in danger of losing. So, Ray, thank you again. What a great, great question. So let's get to some more questions. We had, some more great questions. This was also on Facebook related to District 1 about 5A, which the 5A bracket starts tomorrow night. This is, again, from Brandon, and I'll pull this up in just a moment here. Who has the best chance to take down Chester in the 5A tournament? That's a good question, too. So let me go back to my brackets, and I think I look right away at the 5A bracket, and I think that Chester should be okay tomorrow night. They take on number 16 Upper Moreland. I think they'll be okay there. But whoever wins that Upper Merion Strathaven game, and we've talked about this on Varsity Voice as well, Upper Merion, the number 8 seed, and number 9 Strathaven. Again, whoever wins that game, I think has a shot to knock off Chester. You also look down the bracket, too. There's a few teams that have already beaten Chester. Academy Park, the number 13 seed. Pencrest is a team that has given Chester some problems. So, and I think they actually beat Chester. They split with Chester this year in the Del Val League. So you look at that. Chester is not a completely unbeatable number 1 seed. Are they the best team in 5A? Yeah, definitely. But anything can happen on any given night. So I would say Upper Merion or Strathaven, and then after that, if Academy Park can advance, they've got a shot. And then potentially in the District 1 5A title game, Pencrest or Great Valley could match up with Chester and knock them off. So thank you again, Brandon, for that great question. Let's go to Twitter now. We had some great questions on Twitter, and a reminder, you can still submit questions to us here. Use the hashtag AskAriBlue, and we'll get to them. Let's see. So this one came over from Frankie. So this came from at Frankie Stokes 20. New McGrady boys are in the hunt for a PCL title. Do they have what it takes to seal the deal? Thank you very much. Great question, Frankie. I think they definitely do. And in fact, if I had to make a pick today, I would pick New McGrady to win the whole thing. They've got Quade Green. He's the best guard in the city. They've got Demir Cosby-Roundtree going to Villanova. Quade Green's going to Kentucky. He's probably the best big man in the city. I think you look at those two factors and the fact that they've been there before. Carl Argale's a great coach. They've been at the Palestra before. I think that ultimately they'll beat Archbishop Wood in the championship game. And Wood is very talented. And Wood did beat Newman Goretti at a neutral site at Archbishop Bryan during the regular season. But this will be their first year at the Palestra. So I think that Wood will get through that first game tomorrow night against Archbishop Bryan. But after that, I think New McGrady's got the experience and they've got more talent. I think that they win the game, and I think the New McGrady boys will win the Catholic League Championship. So thank you again at Frankie Stokes 20 for that question. And we're again getting some great feedback on Facebook. Thank you very much again for everybody submitting questions. We're going to move right along here. More questions on Twitter. And again, something related to the Philadelphia Catholic League. This is from JG24. What two teams will advance to the Catholic League Championship, and which team will eventually win the PCL Championship? Well, thank you very much, JG. But again, kind of just talked about this, where I think New McGrady will beat Archbishop Wood for the championship. You look at the Final Four. That's tomorrow night at the Palestra. Wood against Ryan. I think Wood's definitely the favorite, although Ryan will give him a game. And then New McGrady and Roman. That's a great rivalry game, but Roman just barely beat St. Joe's Prep in the quarterfinals, and New McGrady beat Roman by about 25 during the regular season, and that game was on SFBN. You can actually watch the replay on our PCL portal. So I think given those two facts, I think Wood and New McGrady will have a fairly, not an easy time, but not a tough time tomorrow night at the Palestra in the semifinals, and I think they'll match up, and I think, like I just said, New McGrady's got the talent that they will beat Archbishop Wood. I mentioned that you can watch the New McGrady Roman game on our broadcast portal. You can watch all of our games that we covered this winter and this fall and football season. Just go to our website, thesfbn.com. There's links to our broadcast portals, as I mentioned, and also there's links to some great content about some of the past games that we've covered, and we're really starting to produce a lot of great content. We have a great staff of writers and photographers and videographers and reporters. Just make sure you check it out. We've covered District 1, we've covered District 1 playoffs. We've covered Catholic League regular season games. We've covered PAISAA games. So make sure you check that out, thesfbn.com. We have a lot of questions to get to, so I'm going to just move right along here. This question came on Twitter earlier. This was from at Zach on Sports 25. Speaking of PAISAA, will Westtown win the PAISAA championship, and where do you think Mo Bamba will go for college? Great question. First off, the PAISAA Championship is on Saturday afternoon. The Final Four is Friday night. All of the games are being played at Malvern Prep, that great facility there. I think Westtown wins the PAISAA Championship. In fact, their toughest test might be Friday night in the semifinals against Germantown Academy, a rematch of last year's PAISAA championship game. I think ultimately Westtown will get past GA, and then you took a look at the other half of the bracket. I think they're going to have to take on Episcopal Academy, and they're a good game. Nick Galikakos, a very good player, going to Navy for EA, but it's just Westtown is way too much. I mean, you mentioned Mo Bamba. They've also have Cam Reddish and Brandon Randolph, who's a phenomenal player too. And to answer the second part of your question, where do you think Mo Bamba will go to college? Well, for those of you who don't know, he's got it down to 4 choices: Duke, Kentucky, Michigan, and Texas. Pretty good choices, right? I would have to say you have to eliminate Michigan and Texas, and you got to go with the big boys, Duke or Kentucky. And if I had to flip a coin, I think he's going to Kentucky. He actually is pretty close with Quade Green, who is already committed to Kentucky. And I think you have to factor that in. And Kentucky is the number one. I mean, if you're going to go to college to ultimately play in the pros, you want to go to Kentucky. And there's going to be a lot of talent there. So I think if I had to put money on it, I'd say Bamba picks Kentucky. Duke is probably number 2. I would say Michigan and Texas are 3 and 4 in some order. So thank you very much, Zach on Sports 25, for submitting that question on Twitter. I mentioned earlier that we talked about some of these topics on Varsity Voice. Make sure you check that out. It'll be on Thursday night on the Comcast network at 6 and 11 p.m. and on Comcast Sportsnet at 11:30 p.m. We have a phenomenal show for you this week. Aaron Ace Carter from the Philadelphia Inquirer is in the house to break down the Philadelphia Public League Championship between Imhotep and King. That should be a phenomenal game. And also myself and Mike Samsel will, of course, be hosting and co-hosting. And then we have some great in-studio guests as well. So make sure you check out Varsity Voice. Speaking of, actually, we have a great question regarding that Public League Championship game. Let's get to that one right now. That came on Twitter as well, at Scorpion102585. How do you think the championship between Imhotep and King will play out? And is Will McNair getting any looks from colleges? That's a great question. Thank you very much, Scorpion 102585. First off, we'll talk about Will McNair. He's the big man for Martin Luther King. 6'8", big body, kind of a raw player, and that's what you see with these public league big guys, especially those guys that are not on him. They're usually pretty raw. He's got a great coach in Sean Coulson to try and coach him up. I think he's probably starting to get some college looks right now. If I had to put money on it where he'd end up, I would say low-level Division I, maybe like a MEAC school, like a Delaware State or a Hampton, one of those. He could also end up at a Northeast Conference school like a Monmouth or a St. Peter's in the MAC, something along those lines. He's definitely going to get some Division I looks. He could end up at a high-level Division II in a PSAC school like Bloomsburg, East Stroudsburg, Shippensburg. But he's a kid that has the size. You can't teach size. You can't coach size. And hopefully Sean Coulson can coach him up a little bit more and turn that raw ability into a polished player. And how will the game go? Well, Imhotep and King, Imhotep is definitely the favorite in that game. I think I'm going to pick Imhotep to win, but Martin Luther King has kept it close this year, and we really dive deep into that matchup on Varsity Voice. So I'm going to leave everything else to the imagination, and you make sure you check it out. Ace Carter has a lot of great things to say on Varsity Voice on that subject. So again, thank you very much, Scorpion 102585 for that question. All right, let's get to another question now. This one now came on Facebook. This is also from Brandon. What is the must-watch game this week? That's a great question. We've talked about a ton of them. I'm even going to, hop over to Monday because our next Q&A with Ari Blue is going to be after that, the PCL Championship game. At the Palestra, Monday night. Make sure you get your tickets. But if you don't get your tickets, I'll be on air on 12:10 a.m. with the call, so you can tune into that. But that's the game. That's the game to watch. It's probably going to be Wood and Newman-Goretti. They're arguably the two best teams in the city, if not the entire country. They're definitely top 10 in the entire country. That's the game to watch, in my opinion. I think the PAISAA Championship, I think Westtown will handle that. Public League Championship, probably be a good game, and I think the King will definitely keep it close, and you can again watch that on SFBN. But other than that, any of the District 1 games, there's so many great games in the 6A and 5A bracket. You can really check out any of those, and they'll definitely be great games. So, Brandon, thank you again very much for that question. Okay, we do have one more question here. This is also from Brandon. I love it. Brandon, very active. Thank you very much on Facebook. Who has been the best pure shooter this year? Wow. That is a question. I really have to rack my brain on that one. Best pure shooter. Well, I definitely have to throw Colin Gillespie from Archbishop Wood in the mix right there. He is a phenomenal shooter. I'm trying to think of who else. I'll go publicly. I'll go Imhotep, Deron Russell. This kid can just get you off the dribble, just pull up for three from anywhere on the floor. Quaddy Green definitely up there as well. There's so many great players and so many great shooters. Even in District 1, you can go with Plymouth Whitemarsh, the Williams brothers. They're great shooters. Abington's got some great shooters as well. Robbie Heath. is a guy that comes to mind for Abington. And Justin Jaworski on Perkiomen Valley. He's another great shooter. There's just so many great shooters and so many great players in this area. I just can't narrow it down as to who is the absolute best pure shooter. We're going to wrap it up now. I mean, we just had so many great questions. Thank you again, everybody, for watching and who submitted their questions. I really appreciate it. Again, go to our website for more information, thesfbn.com. You can watch our past broadcasts, know when our live broadcasts are coming up, all the great content, and then again, check out Varsity Voice on the Comcast Network at 6 and 11 p.m. this Thursday night and 11:30 p.m. on Comcast Sportsnet. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in here on Facebook Live, and make sure you tune in next week and follow everything on SFBN on our website. I'm Ari Bluestein. Thank you for watching Q&A with Ari Blue here on Facebook Live.